Look closely. Something strange keeps happening. You glance at the clock. 11:11. Not once. Not twice. Again. And again. At first, you smile. A coincidence, just a number. Nothing special. That's what most people think. But something inside you feels different. A quiet tension. A subtle pull. Because deep down, you know this moment feels intentional. The universe rarely repeats a signal without purpose. And yet, this number keeps appearing. Morning. Night. Random moments you never planned. Almost like something is gently tapping on the glass of your attention, trying to make you notice. Most people see 11:11 and move on. They scroll, they laugh, they forget. But that reaction hides a dangerous mistake. Because when a signal appears again and again, it is rarely meaningless. Patterns are not accidents, they are invitations. And every invitation carries a window. A short moment when something important can begin. Ignore it long enough. And the signal fades. Not because it failed, but because the moment passed. That is the part nobody talks about. But here's the twist. 11:11 is not meant for everyone. It never was. Millions of people walk past it every day without noticing. Yet somehow, you stopped. You felt something. A strange curiosity. A quiet awareness. Almost like the moment was pulling you in. And that changes everything. Because the universe does not send repeated signals to random observers. It sends them to those who are ready to see. People who are beginning to question reality. People who feel something shifting beneath the surface of everyday life. People who are slowly waking up. People like you. And if you are hearing this right now, then something unusual has already begun. The signal found you, not the other way around. And the moment you start noticing it, you realize a powerful truth. You're not random. Millions of people see 11:11 every day, everywhere, on their phone, on the microwave clock, on a random receipt. For a split second they notice it, then they move on. Because most people believe it means only one thing: luck, a wish, a cute little coincidence, something harmless, something fun. But that idea hides a deeper misunderstanding. Because 11:11 was never meant to be comfort. It was never meant to be decoration. It was meant to interrupt you, to stop your attention, to break the automatic flow of your thoughts. Think about it. 4 identical numbers, perfect alignment, a pattern so clean your brain cannot ignore it. That is not accidental design. That is a signal, a trigger, a quiet wake-up code. But here is where most people go wrong. They treat the signal like entertainment. They smile, they make a wish, then they return to the same unconscious routine, the same habits, the same thoughts, the same direction, and the signal fades into the background. But something important was just missed. Because signals like this appear during moments of change. Moments when your awareness is beginning to shift. Moments when something inside you is trying to evolve. And evolution rarely feels comfortable. It feels strange. It feels unfamiliar. Sometimes it even feels unsettling. Because growth disrupts the familiar patterns of life. And that is exactly why the signal appears. Not to comfort you, but to alert you. To whisper a quiet message. Pay attention. Because something inside you is moving. Something subtle. Something powerful. Something that most people never even notice. But here is the dangerous part. When people repeatedly ignore signals like this, life slowly becomes heavier. Not dramatically, not overnight, but gradually. More confusion, more delays, more strange obstacles that seem to appear from nowhere, opportunities almost arriving, then slipping away. doors almost opening, then quietly closing. People often blame bad luck. They blame circumstances. They blame other people. But rarely do they question the deeper pattern, because ignoring awareness creates friction. Life begins pushing harder, trying to get your attention again, trying to make you look up, trying to make you notice. But if the signal keeps getting ignored, eventually it stops appearing. Not because it failed, but because the window closed. That is the part most people never realize. Every signal carries timing, a moment, a doorway, and doorways never stay open forever. They appear, they wait, then they disappear, which means something important is happening right now, at this exact moment, right here, right while you are hearing these words. Because noticing the signal changes the entire equation. The moment awareness enters the picture, reality begins shifting in small but powerful ways. You start seeing patterns you never noticed before. You start questioning things that once felt normal. You start feeling that life might be more guided than random. And suddenly, the number 1111 feels different. Not lucky, not magical, but intentional. Like a quiet checkpoint. A moment when reality briefly taps your shoulder and asks a question. Are you awake yet? Most people miss that question. They walk past it, they scroll past it, they forget it. But you didn't. You stopped. You listened. And that single decision changes everything. Because awareness is rare. True attention is rare. Most people move through life half asleep. Following routines they never questioned, chasing goals they never truly chose, repeating patterns they barely notice. But the moment a signal breaks that routine, a new possibility appears, a new direction, a new level of understanding. And only a few people notice when that door opens. Few people reached here, and that changes everything. For thousands of years, ancient traditions whispered about something unusual. Moments when reality feels slightly different. Moments when awareness sharpens. Moments when the invisible world briefly touches the visible one. Most people never notice those moments. They pass by quietly, hidden inside ordinary time. But those who are paying attention feel it instantly. A strange pause in reality, a feeling that something meaningful just happened. Many ancient cultures believed these moments were signals, not loud, not dramatic, but precise. Small patterns designed to wake the mind. And one of the most mysterious patterns ever recorded is 1111. At first glance, it looks simple, just numbers, just a time on the clock. But look again. 4 identical digits, perfect symmetry, perfect alignment. A pattern so balanced, it immediately captures attention. Your brain cannot ignore it. Your awareness stops for a moment, and that pause is exactly where the signal begins. Because the moment your attention stops, your awareness expands. Think about the image hidden inside the number. 1111, 2 pillars, 2 gateways, standing side by side, almost like a doorway, a silent entrance between 2 states of awareness. Ancient mystics often described moments like this as thin places, moments when the barrier between the inner world and the outer world becomes softer, moments when perception becomes sharper, moments when insight can suddenly appear. But here's the twist. The signal is not outside you. It never was. The universe is not sending numbers through your clock like messages on a screen. That would be too simple, too mechanical. The real signal happens somewhere deeper, inside your awareness. Inside the quiet layer of perception most people never pay attention to. The clock does not create the signal. The clock reflects it. The number simply appears at the exact moment your awareness is ready to notice it, and that realization changes the entire meaning of 1111, because it means the signal begins inside you, not outside, which means something inside your mind is shifting, slowly, subtly, almost invisibly. Your awareness is beginning to wake up, and the moment awareness begins waking up, reality starts feeling different. You begin noticing patterns. You begin sensing connections. Moments that once felt random suddenly feel meaningful. Small coincidences begin appearing more often. Conversations arrive at the perfect moment. Ideas appear exactly when you need them. Opportunities show up in unexpected ways. At first, these moments feel strange, almost unbelievable, because you were never taught to notice them. Most people were trained to ignore patterns, to call everything coincidence, to dismiss anything that feels mysterious. But awareness does not follow those rules. Awareness expands naturally once it begins moving. And the moment you start noticing 1111 repeatedly, something inside your perception has already shifted. You are no longer moving through reality on autopilot. You are observing it. And observation changes everything. Because when awareness sharpens, life begins responding differently. You start making decisions more consciously. You notice signs earlier. You feel when something is aligned. You feel when something is not. This is the quiet transformation most people never understand. They believe the number itself is magical. They believe the clock holds some hidden power. But the number is not the power. Your awareness is. The number simply reveals it. And once that awareness begins expanding, it becomes difficult to return to the old unconscious way of living. You begin questioning things you once accepted. You begin searching for deeper meaning. You begin sensing that life might be more intelligent than it first appeared. Not controlled, not scripted, but responsive. Almost like reality reacts when you become aware of it. And that is where the deeper mystery begins. Because awareness itself changes perception. And perception changes choices. And choices quietly reshape the direction of life. One small moment of noticing can lead to a completely different path. That is why signals like 1111 appear during important phases of personal change. Moments when something inside you is preparing to evolve. Moments when your mind is becoming ready to see more. Moments when the old version of you begins dissolving and a new version slowly begins forming. But here's the powerful part. This process rarely feels dramatic. It feels subtle, almost invisible, like a quiet shift inside your thinking, a deeper curiosity, a stronger awareness of patterns, a feeling that something meaningful is unfolding behind the surface of everyday life. And the moment you begin feeling that shift, you are already standing at the doorway. The doorway those four numbers quietly represent. 1111, two pillars, one gateway, a moment of awareness, a moment when perception changes direction. And once that shift truly begins, it cannot fully go back. Because once you see patterns, you cannot unsee them. Once awareness expands, it does not shrink the same way again. Once the mind wakes up, it never returns to the exact state it was before. That realization changes everything, because it means the signal was never trying to control your life. It was simply revealing that your awareness is ready for something deeper. Now here is the part most people never hear. The part almost no one talks about. When a signal appears repeatedly in your life, it creates a choice, not a loud choice, not a dramatic moment, No flashing lights, no announcement, just a quiet crossroads hidden inside an ordinary moment. A subtle decision. Pay attention or ignore it. That's it. Two directions. Simple on the surface, but powerful beneath it. Because the direction you choose quietly shapes what happens next. Most people never realize this choice even exists. They see the number, 1111. They smile. Maybe they make a wish. Maybe they screenshot it. Then they continue scrolling. Back to noise. Back to distraction. Back to the endless routine of everyday life. And nothing changes. Days repeat. Weeks repeat. Life moves forward exactly the same way it always has. Predictable, comfortable, familiar, but also strangely heavy. Because when signals appear and are ignored, life slowly becomes louder, not clear. Louder, more distractions, more stress, more confusion, more random obstacles that seem to appear without warning. Things start taking longer, plans stall, energy feels scattered, and people rarely understand why. They blame bad luck, they blame timing, they blame other people, but the deeper reason is rarely considered. Because ignoring awareness creates friction. When your mind is trying to wake up, and you keep forcing it back into sleep, life begins to push harder, not to punish you, but to wake you up again. Sometimes that push appears as restlessness. Sometimes it appears as dissatisfaction. Sometimes it appears as the strange feeling that something in your life is missing. Even when everything looks normal from the outside, that feeling is not weakness. It is awareness trying to grow. But most people silence that feeling. They drown it in distractions, more scrolling, more noise, more routines that keep the mind occupied, until eventually the signal fades. Not because the universe stopped communicating, but because the moment passed. Because every signal carries timing, a window, a small opening where awareness can expand. And windows do not stay open forever. They appear, they wait, then they close. But here is the other direction, the one most people never explore. The moment you acknowledge the signal, even quietly, something different begins. You do not need rituals. You do not need special knowledge. You simply notice. And that small act of noticing changes your awareness. Suddenly, the moment feels intentional. You pause. Your mind becomes still for a second. Your attention becomes sharper. And that single second of awareness creates a ripple effect. Because awareness attracts patterns. The more aware you become, the more connections your mind begins to notice. Small coincidences appear more often. You meet the right person at the right moment. You hear the exact idea you needed. A random conversation suddenly answers a question you never spoke out loud. At first, it feels strange, almost unbelievable. But slowly, you realize something important. Life begins to feel guided, not controlled. Guided, like an invisible current, gently adjusting your direction. And the shift begins quietly, almost invisibly. Nothing dramatic happens overnight. No sudden lightning strike of destiny. Just small changes. A clearer decision, a different conversation, a new idea that feels strangely aligned. Each moment seems small on its own, but together they slowly reshape your path. That is the quiet power of awareness, because awareness changes how you move through reality, and how you move through reality changes what reality gives back to you. Most people never experience this shift, not because it is rare, but because they never slow down enough to notice it beginning. They rush past the signals. They ignore the patterns. They move through life half asleep, following routines they never questioned, chasing goals they never truly chose. repeating cycles they barely understand. But sometimes, a person stops, a person notices, a person pays attention to the small signals others ignore. And that single moment of attention changes everything. Because attention is the doorway to awareness, and awareness is the beginning of transformation. That is why signals like 1111 appear, not to entertain you, not to impress you, but to interrupt the automatic flow of unconscious living, to create a moment where you become aware again, aware of your direction, aware of your thoughts, aware of the strange patterns life keeps placing in front of you. And the moment that awareness begins, life quietly starts responding. Opportunities appear differently. People enter your life for specific reasons. Ideas come at unexpected moments, and suddenly, the world feels less random, less chaotic, more connected, more meaningful. And the strangest part is this. Most people never notice when the shift begins. They miss the doorway entirely. But you didn't. You noticed something. You felt curiosity. You paused long enough to listen. And that single decision reveals something powerful about you. It means your awareness is already waking up. It means you are already seeing patterns others ignore. It means you are already standing near the doorway most people walk past without noticing. And that realization leads to one powerful truth. Something about you is already different. You're not random. Something unusual keeps happening. You look at the clock, 11:11. At first it feels small, just a number, just another moment in the day. But the strange part is how often it appears, again and again. Almost like reality is quietly repeating itself until you notice. Most people see it and move on. They call it coincidence. They laugh. They forget. But that reaction hides a deeper truth, because patterns rarely appear without purpose. And when a signal repeats itself over and over, it is trying to interrupt your attention, not loudly, but precisely. 1111 was never meant to be a lucky number. It was meant to be a trigger, a quiet wake-up signal. A moment when your awareness suddenly stops and asks a question. Why did I notice this? That single second of awareness is powerful, because awareness changes perception. And perception changes the direction of life. Most people miss that moment. They return to routine, noise, distraction, and life continues exactly the same. But sometimes someone pauses, someone notices, someone feels that strange curiosity pulling them deeper. And that small moment of attention creates something powerful. Awareness begins expanding. Patterns become visible. Coincidences start feeling meaningful. Conversations arrive at the right time. Ideas appear exactly when they are needed. Slowly, life begins to feel different, not controlled, guided. But here's the twist. The signal was never outside you. The number itself has no magic. The clock is only a mirror. The real shift happens inside your awareness. The moment you begin noticing 1111 repeatedly, something inside your perception has already started waking up. You begin seeing life differently. You begin questioning things you once accepted without thinking. You begin sensing that reality might be more connected than random. That shift is subtle, quiet, almost invisible. But once it begins, it rarely goes backward, because awareness changes everything. It changes how you think, how you choose, how you move through life, and those small changes slowly reshape your entire path. Most people never reach this point. They never stop long enough to notice the signal. But you did. You paid attention. You listened. And that single moment reveals something powerful. The signal found you, not the other way around. And that realization leads to one truth that cannot be ignored. You are not random.